We're going to continue now with our geopolitical segment, turning to Asia's two economic giants. We're going to start with our roundtable on India, and I'm pleased to welcome Dinesh Kumar Khara, Chairman of the State Bank of India, who is here with us today in Paris. And joining us remotely is India's G20 Sherpa and former CEO of Niti Aayog, Amitabh Kant. Welcome to Mr. Kant, who is joining us remotely. It's wonderful to have you with us to share some of your insights on a country that arguably everyone is courting right now. And welcome back, of course, to Dinesh Khara. Lovely to see you. You're, of course, a frequent visitor at the Amundi World Investment Forum, SBI MF. The joint venture between Amundi and SBI is India's leading asset manager. So thanks for being here. We're excited to talk to both of you about the role India is poised to play, as well as potential challenges, of course. But before we begin the discussion, I'd like to invite us to watch a short video. On seeing that video in one word: wow, expected, surprising. What would you say, seeing some of those numbers?
I would say it is the future of the world.
The future of the world. I'm going to ask you to take your microphone for us there.
Sure.
What those numbers actually do is really provide a sense of perspective for everyone here. 68.9% of 1.4 billion or more people is a huge number of working adults. But massive numbers of young people entering the workforce can indeed present challenges. For you, are demographics more of an opportunity or a constraint?
I would say it's more of an opportunity because one, of course, the kind of skilled manpower which we have in the country, and also the young population also offers a huge demand opportunity apart from contributing to creating wealth in the economy. I think to that extent, we as a country were blessed. We are endowed with natural resources. We have the skill set, we have the commitment, we have the determination, and we have fire in belly to prove ourselves. And that is something which you have already demonstrated. It has become the 5th largest economy. I am quite confident the way we are progressing very soon will become number 3 in the world. One data point which I must share with you. We used to grow about 500 billion a year about 5 years back. For last 2 years, we are growing at about 750 billion a year. Today, it's a democracy with 3.7 trillion US dollar economy it is. And quite confident that in another 2 years' time will become a 5 trillion economy. Huge demand, and also our ability to attract investment from across the globe. The progressive policies which are being pursued by the government of India, the kind of investment into creation of social infrastructure in the economy, and also the clear focus for the renewable energy in the economy is something which I believe are the levers which will ensure the kind of growth which I just indicated.
Staying with demographics, I'm going to turn to Mr. Kant. Discontent among young people can lead to periods of instability. History has told us that. But India has experienced a long period of political stability, but there are, of course, national elections coming up next year. Do you see any political risk around this topic?
Well, I certainly don't think there is any political risk ahead. India is the world's largest democracy. We have very vibrant, lively elections, and our election commission ensures that no voter is left behind. Since we've seen several elections at state levels, sub-national levels, we have many more to come next year. We'll have a general election, but I can tell you that our present government, this is the Prime Minister is here for the last 9 years. His credit rating is still very high at about 72%. So he enjoys a lot of support. India is amongst the youngest countries in the world today, with an average age of 29. The share of our working population as a percentage of the total population is yet to peak. There's very low dependency burden. This is a huge source of competitive advantage to us. Our success lies in harnessing the energy of our youth. We've created an environment buzzing with innovation and entrepreneurship. The gig and platform economy is creating huge new opportunities. We've gone digital in a very big way. Every Indian has an identity. Every Indian has a bank account. We do about 11x more digital payment than what USA and Europe do. We do about 4x more digital payments than what China does. Uh, Moving from digital payments to credit to insurance to wealth creation is all going digital. And micro entrepreneurs and startups have been able to provide huge access to credit, insurance, wealth creation, all, and scale up their operations. The new education policy, along with sectoral skilling programs, spanning agriculture to digital technologies, and huge skilling is preparing our workforce for the future of work. By 2035, almost 25% of the workforce of the world will be provided by Indian. So the future looks extremely bright for India.
Mr. Kant, you've outlined a lot of competitive advantages there for India, and it is true that India has seen an extremely robust economic cycle since reopening post-COVID. However, the investment cycle has not kept up. What factors should make us optimistic that the investment cycle will gain traction?
So we've carried out major structural reforms in the Indian economy. We've brought in goods and services tax, the insolvency and bankruptcy code. We've seen a huge, massive amount of employment in large range of areas. And we brought in the production-linked incentive scheme, which is leading to increased investments. We are also seeing a huge focus on infrastructure creation by the government. We've put a massive amount of resources. The capital outlays have increased by 150% in the last 3 years. It's important to understand that we are the fastest growing large economy in the world at about 7.2% at a point when there is a global slowdown. And my belief is that our digital transformation and our action on climate change will really provide a huge impetus to growth in India. We are set to be the first country in the world to industrialize without carbonizing. We aim to make India a green hydrogen hub, and you will see a huge, huge impetus to both private investment and foreign direct investment in India in the days to come.
Dinesh, Khara, I can see you nodding there in agreement. Anything to add there?
No, I would like to say that the kind of indication which was given in terms of the focus on infrastructure by the government of India, That is one of the major driver which has seen the economy through even the most difficult phase of the COVID. And post-COVID, what we have seen is that even the private sector investment is coming in a very big way. And the capacity utilization in the economy has gone to the extent of almost about 75%. So fresh investment is happening in the core sector. So what Mr. Kant indicated, I think that is something which will propel the growth of the economy going forward. Though we have grown at about 7.2, but in the coming year also, we are hoping to be growing, though RBI, Reserve Bank of India has indicated about 6.5. But the kind of activity level which we are seeing on the ground, it gives us a confidence that we should be somewhere around 7% again. So I think with this kind of a behavior which we are getting to see as far as the economic transformation of the economy is concerned, that gives us a confidence that we have got a capability to grow for multi-years at more than 7%. So I think that is something which will see the economy becoming from a developing to the developed status.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to Mr. Khan again there. The China Plus One strategy is certainly benefiting India as an investment destination. However, a new geopolitical order calls for careful choices, if you will. How will India fit in this new order, and can India successfully play its cards?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And let me say that the world is looking towards India. We are the fastest growing large economy, as I said. We offer global investors a stable policy environment, a large market where purchasing power is growing with the rising middle class. We are set to reap the benefits of demographic dividend. This has been built on economic reforms, governance reforms, along with a very robust digital backbone, transforming both services and benefit delivery. The development goals and the goals of the world are today in synergy. That is India's development goal and the goals of the world. Solutions to climate change, accelerating progress on sustainable development goals, leveraging digital technologies for socio-economic transformation, all have been scaled to population scale in India. The kind of disruption India has done on these new technologies is path-breaking. Our digital transformation and action on climate change are truly unique. We've built up India's financial inclusion ecosystem, which has transformed with digital payment through the unified payment interface. Our digital public infrastructure has been truly unique. We achieved our NDC targets, which we had committed at Paris, at the Green Summit in Paris, 9 years ahead of schedule. So India has a lot to offer the world. The lessons learned and solutions devised in India can be adapted across the world to solve the most pressing issues of the time. And that is why you have the leading investors from across the world, from Apple and Macron to all leading companies across the world. There's not a single leading company of the world which is not investing in India. This is the future of the world in India. To my mind, there's no point wasting for leading companies and for investors. There's no point wasting your time in other parts of the world. Come to India. This is your future because the population is here, the demand is here, the growth is here, and this is what is where all the transformation of the world is happening. So don't ever miss this opportunity which India is providing.
Dinesh, Mr. Kant provides a very convincing argument there. Should international investors be worried about India's equity valuations? And if not, which sectors are the most interesting?
I think when it comes to equity valuation, well, of course, as compared to benchmark, the equity index has performed pretty well in the country, and perhaps better than even China and some of the other emerging market economies also. So that very clearly is a reflection of the kind of value creation which is happening in the Indian corporate sector. And more important, which was alluded by Mr. Kant also, when it comes to the demand scenario, it is something which is very, very encouraging. And as an economy, we have been known for the majorly for the services, but I think there is a paradigm shift which is happening in the economy, and which is more so in terms of India becoming one of the most important resilient part of the supply chain. We are very much part of the supply chain when it comes to the auto OEMs, but now we are becoming part of the global supply chain for the white goods, for engineering goods, and for electronics as well. What Mr. Kant mentioned in terms of Apple having set up their production unit there, there's a renewed focus for the renewable energy, solar cells, solar panels. So the way we have committed ourselves for generating 500 gigawatt into the renewable energy, that actually is a reflection of the kind of ambition which we have, and we are ensuring that we should allocate enough resources for making it really happen on the ground. And I think that is something which will actually lead this economy to a very different level. And the necessary ingredient in terms of improving the infrastructure, manpower, human resources, skilled human resources, all that is something available. Stable democracy, and also a now very structured social economic structure which is now being built will go a long way in terms of showing the way to this economy also. So I think to that extent, what Mr. Kant says, I fully endorse that view, and rather I would amplify that by these facts which I'm seeing on the ground. So I'm actually equally optimistic about what Mr. Kant mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. I have time for one last question for Mr. Kant before we end this roundtable. India, it's fair to say, has come a long way from a decade ago, and as we see in many emerging markets, a more stable policy environment is attractive. Investor appetite is there, and investors are eager to put more capital in play. But is India ready to embrace a more decisive opening towards foreign capital flows? And what barriers need to be removed to facilitate both inbound and outbound investments? We have a problem with the microphone there. Mr. Kant, I'll ask you to just stop for one moment and see if we can get that working in.
So if you look at our track record, we have opened up our foreign investment inflows totally, particularly the foreign direct investment. Almost 95% of the foreign direct investment which comes into India doesn't need any approval. It comes through the automatic route. Of course, attracting foreign investment is much more than just foreign investment regulations. And therefore, boosting investor confidence is key to facilitating investments. And I think the fact that there has been consistency of policies for a long time has enabled us to build investor confidence. It is also about the business environment, state of infrastructure, on which a lot of focus has been laid, and the large number of economic reforms that have been carried out, and also making India a very easy and simple place to do business in. Our intellectual property right regime has been transformed. We moved ahead leaps and bounds on taxation reforms, low corporate tax. Our corporate tax are amongst the best in the world. New dispute settlement mechanisms. All this have brought in policy stability and clarity. The removal of the retrospective taxation regime is another major move boosting investor confidence. We've codified our labor laws, introduced production-linked incentive scheme. So our startup ecosystem is also amongst the most dynamic in the world. So policy action has been geared towards creating an enabling environment. On outward investment, we've seen a slew of Indian companies and even startups investing outside India. In fact, a lot of Indian companies invest outside India. I think going ahead, working towards lowering the cost of doing business, and I think because India is a very large company, India is bigger than 24 countries of Europe. So we need a lot of reforms at the state levels. And every state must become a champion of growth. That will boost greater foreign investment inflows. And therefore, many reforms which the states carry out will be the crucial enablers for investment inflows, both domestic and foreign. But I am confident that every state is now keen to become easy, simple, and be a driver of growth. Thank you.
Mr. Khara, Mr. Kant, thank you very much for your insights. That wraps up our geopolitics segment on India. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.